our travel in time. And so it begins. Our travel in time. Yeah. Our travel in time, Dave. I'm not sure. Will we begin with how time travel works, or how it could possibly work? Theoretically, it is definitely possible. Or would you like to start?
I don't know. Time traveling pigeons.
Time traveling pigeons is definitely something we can get into in the future. But I think if Dave wants to start,
well,
I
think first of all, sorry, Fran, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, it's all right. No, I don't mind. I know what the business is.
Sorry, I'm just munching away here.
That's okay. It's okay. I have no food in front of me. Yes. Please disregard the labels.
Welcome to How It Is. We're
welcome.
We've done well.
Yeah.
We're a minute in. We've done nothing.
Yeah, and we still haven't. We barely even introduced ourselves. Let alone the podcast.
How It Is. The How It Is podcast with Fran and Dave.
Fran and Dave, or Dave and Fran, or whatever way you want to say it.
Whatever way you want to say it, doesn't really matter.
Whatever. No, once it feels comfortable to you.
On today's episode of How It Is, we'll be talking about conspiracy theories.
Yes, and possibly other theories, and how many parallel theories we could have.
And we're going to talk about a lot of other things, such as Katie Hopkins being banned from Twitter.
The campaign to unify the nations trophy winner.
Yeah, that's
brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us off with the Mayan Civilization, because I think it's something that's really interesting. It's kind of topical at the moment. Well, by kind of topical, I mean it's very topical, because the theorists say they got it wrong, Fran.
Yes, I've seen a lot of theorists.
Well, originally the date was said the 21st of December 2012.
Right? Oh no. Doomsday.
That's what they said it was going to be the end of the world. There was a movie made about it. And the reason why it was theorized that the Mayans believed that was going to be the end of the world is because their calendar is on a 5,126 year cycle. Excuse me. What they didn't take into consideration when the likes of whoever was doing the research, what they didn't take into consideration was the Mayans didn't use leap years in their calendar, and that would have given it another 1,281 and a half days, which would have brought them to the 24th of June 2016. Now, what they actually found out was they were 4 years too early, which brings them up, and this is just from what I've been looking at on various different websites about conspiracy theories. 21st of June 2020. Today. The moment.
Today.
So if you're watching this,
we're on the airways right now.
If someone's watching this on the 22nd of June, congratulations, you survived the apocalypse.
Yes, and so did we, apparently, because we got to upload the video.
So, the Mayan Civilization.
Did they give any time lapse for when it was?
Any time today?
No, any time today.
Any time today. So if you're watching this in the future, it was all bullshit.
It's the goddamn summer solstice, motherfuckers. It's the longest day of the year.
Exactly. So, looking through my notes that I've found, the Mayan Civilization was across 4 different countries in Central America, okay? Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. The 2 main hubs of that were in Mexico and Guatemala. Mexico's was the Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza.
I'm butchering that. And then the Guatemalan one was Tikal.
Tikal.
Tikal is an important place because from what I've read, from some reliable, some non-reliable, Tikal hosted the court for the ancient Mayan civilization.
Oh wow! Oh, a court, Dave.
Yeah, the court's residence in Guatemala in Tikal, which is the. Sorry, they're not. They weren't places. They were events that took place in these places.
Rituals and such.
Yes, exactly. But Tikal would take place in Guatemala, where the Mayan court residence was.
Aha.
And I've been building up to this now. What was the court called, Fran?
La
La
Corona. It was La
Coronavirus.
Corona.
Coronavirus. La Corona. The research was done between April and May 2012. And they discovered a site in 1996 called Site Q, which is believed to be where La Corona took place. But,
Oh,
I mean, is it a coincidence that on the 21st of June, we're in the middle of a global health crisis called coronavirus?
yeah. That's
The
it's
Mayans
definitely
theorized that today would be the end of the world.
it's definitely it probably could be the end of the world, but is it the end of the world how it is now, or is it going to be completely the end of the world and we're all going to be wiped out?
I don't know. That's an interesting one there, actually, Fran, because what is the end of the world?
Yeah. Like what can end it? Like when time stands still,
I mean,
and if time is an illusion.
time is an illusion. We've made up time. Time is the humans made up time. Now, time is obviously a thing. It's fact that it is a thing. It moves us through space, and
it's another dimension.
yeah, it's another dimension in the mathematics that is the world. But it's something that you have to look at as what is the end of the world. It was the end of the world when the dinosaurs were killed by the Ice Age. Was that the end of the world? Because Earth survived it.
Yeah.
The population didn't. So what
No.
does that? Excuse me. What does that mean? Is the end of the world the population or the place?
So is it life, or is it just a universal body that we're sitting on that ends? I mean, life could end, but then again, cockroaches can survive a nuclear holocaust. So,
They have done.
will cockroaches rule the world, Dave? That's what I want to know.
Well, if you've ever seen Men in Black 1, then they tried. Failed.
God damn it! God fucking damn it!
Yeah. So again, like I'm just looking at the stats. Today is regarded as the end of the world. The way
we seem to have survived multiple doomsday events over the course of the last 3 decades.
Yeah, even just our lives from 1993 onwards, we've survived Y2K as well.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna look into, but I was like, ugh, it's just so much in it. Like this was.
I mean, but it's based on computers taking over the world.
Yeah, well, that's the way they were looking at it was. Every computer in the world was connected up to the same
hub.
Yeah, and when the calendar went from 1999, no computer had ever changed all 4 digits of the year before. So it was going from 1999 to 2000, and that's what they were saying. It was going to be too much for that hub to handle for every single electronic device that could tell the time and tell the date. It was going to be too much for them to take over into a new millennium.
Into a new millennium, and it all come to an ultimate collapse.
Yeah.
But maybe there's another way of looking at Y2K there, and that that computers in the year 2000, that's when computers really started to take effect on the world.
The new millennium, wasn't it? They really kind of took over.
They did kind of take over, and look at how far in they are now, and at what they what they've actually helped us to achieve, or this podcast exactly, it's helped us to achieve this, but then everything else in return of that, you can see that it has also probably done a lot of damage too.
Yeah,
They've actually
absolutely.
done a lot, because if we want to know something, we can look it up instantly,
Yeah,
and but it really has, and one person sending something out. It's coming back to this whole information technology thing again. I'm going to get off that subject because it seems to be embedded in my brain ever since. But yeah, but I think Y2K has happened
well,
in not so much of what they thought it was going to be, but I think it has.
I mean,
So
we're
that's
looking. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. We're looking at how the Mayan Empire civilization. Um,
yeah, we've strayed so far from the point now.
well, we were
We
looking at how they theorized that the world was going to end at the
mhm.
end of their 5,126 year cycle. But how would they have known that? How did they know that the world was on a 5,120 year cycle? Where was there? How did they have that theory in the first place? Could they have
They
traveled
obviously
through time?
they could have traveled through time. The Mayans could have been time travelers.
And
I
is
mean,
that possible? To move on, this kind of it segues into your topic
yeah, but
or topic of time
whereas
travel.
yeah, with time travel. But what I'm saying is, with the Mayans as well, you can kind of consider the fact that it may even be uh, magic. It could be something that we don't even understand,
Yeah,
that they could have seen into the future through one of their crystal balls. You know, sort of a scenario. Because
yeah,
I mean, they're an ancient civilization. We don't know what they had
true, true.
and what
Yeah.
access they had. Because there's a lot of different books that go around. A lot of grimoires of certain you know
Well,
witch doctors and other magical practitioners.
well, my brother showed me an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they talk about science versus religion. I'm sure anybody that's seen this episode, science versus
Yeah,
religion. And I don't watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He just showed me this one episode.
I
And
don't order.
the point that was made on the religion side, on the science side, was you're just reading books that are written by other people from 2,500 years ago, such as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah,
You weren't there, you can't tell what happened. So then the guy who's religious argues the guy that was for science, you're doing the exact same.
that's exactly it. Yeah,
I haven't done all these all these experiments that the likes of Einstein have done. I haven't seen a video of it. I can't tell. I can't tell if E equals MC squared or whatever because I've never tested it.
yeah, and you never looked into it, so you probably
Exactly.
you probably don't even know. You could end up being the next change in physics,
I
and
won't be, but I could be.
I mean, the possibility is there.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, but yeah, with time travel as well, and considering that they could have been time travelers, or they could have had some knowledge of some knowledge of astronomy that we don't actually understand today.
Yeah.
Just by uh, there not been any lights, there not been any street lights, like light pollution causes you not to be able to actually see out at night, like
Yeah.
out past. Like if you go into an empty field, you can see more stars because there's no light pollution.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's no beams of light covering it. So you can imagine like light uh, as kind of like a curtain. So street lights are actually designed to cause that curtain because they they don't want us to see, Dave. They don't want us to see what's going on.
True.
They don't want us to see the world around us. Um, it seems to be definitely some way of forming us or shaping us. So we can't actually. grow to see what's next in physics. So we have like this thing where it's called the Tipler system.
Yeah.
So it's basically where a thing will need an infinite mass, right? Like an object will need an infinite mass and be able to stretch to or sorry, a mass of zero, not an infinite mass, and it'll have to stretch for an infinite length of time. And then what we'll have to do is to in order to travel in time, we'll have to go around this Tipler system in a spiral, right? So it'll cause it causes time curvatures, right? So when you start spinning and spinning and spinning, so it's actually bending space time the whole time, but you're kind of in like a controlled environment, so you can pass. So this is like spinning all the time in space around and around and around and around.
Yes.
And you can just go from one point to the other. But it's actually almost like it's so similar to a wormhole, except wormholes for time travel are because they don't even know that they actually exist in a sort of a sense. So they do. They haven't. They know that they exist microscopically, but they haven't been able to detect any of these microscopic wormholes out in space because technology just it isn't at that much of an advanced stage for us to be able to do that. And it's understandable. I mean, you know, the incredible feats that they've had in theory for time travel, but because what is required for time travel is so vast, you know, based on the theories that are there, what you'd actually need, the practicality of making that happen is very very difficult, and you need a lot of whoa, I'm stumbling over my words. You need a lot of equipment, and you need super advanced technology in order for you to even consider the fact that time travel can be made possible. Like time travel is definitely possible on paper. 100% is to the present or to the future definitely is definitely possible. To the past is where we run into difficulties. Because we come into this whole grandfather paradox where if we were to say go back in time and kill our grandfather,
like the episode in Futurama kind of thing, like
like an episode of Futurama. Whereas if you end up killing your grandfather, okay, in a different parallel universe, you won't be born. So in that parallel universe, you won't be born. But now you have basically just replaced your grandfather. So if you are, you know, the spawn of your grandparents and your parents, then do you not become your own grandfather?
Technically, yeah. But then you're looking at, you would have to replace your grandfather by having the same relationships with the same women.
Yeah.
And then, well, you don't have the same, like, genetic, what's the word? You don't have the same genetics in general as your grandfather, because he has different. So it would be like if, like, for example, you look at me and my younger siblings all have different. I have a different mom to them, but we have the same dad. But they have different. So they have different genetics from their mom's side that I would from my mom's side, and that would then mean it would be completely different. Whereas as multiverse theory is the most likely in time travel, where you'd be looking at, well, this is my timeline. And if you watch Avengers or anything like that, they look at the multiverse theory that if you change one thing in this time, it shoots off into a different time curve.
Yeah.
But then there's a theory that at some point in time, every single one of these, so there's so many different, every possibility that there ever has been and ever will be started here. Okay?
Yeah.
A point in space and time, so just somewhere around here. And I'd love to be able to edit this so that I could show you the lines on the screen.
yeah.
So everything goes like this. Okay? But at this point here,
on straight edge,
where time started, or whatever it is, whatever point in time where there was a decision to be made, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you have your original. So say there's 7 timelines.
So we can imagine it like a focal point on an eye.
Hang on, give me a sec. I'll show you. So
you have like an eyeball.
So I'm just drawing this now. I've literally just come up with this. But the theory is, Fran, that by the end of it, every single timeline will end up at the exact same point. And
so like light going into your eye.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how it's theorized, okay?
Okay.
Start here at ground zero.
That is the firmament, Dave. That's
the line. That's the timeline. So that's our timeline. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking.
At some point back here.
Looks like a hot air balloon.
Yeah, pretty much. Or a blimp.
A blimp.
At some point here, something happened that made all of these timelines shoot out. Every different possibility. And those amount of timelines are infinite. Okay?
Okay.
So I just have 7 drawn here because it was easier to do.
The amount of colours in the rainbow, Dave. 7 colours.
Sure,
7,
yeah, we'll go with that.
White light disperses into 7 colours. Exactly. That's a good number. Let's go.
So, at some point in time, every single time, every timeline, every universe, multiverse, whatever, will finish up here. Bringing us back onto the Mayan civilization.
So, what you're telling me is, right? Yeah, but they theorized that then, right? In this reality, right, and on their timeline. But I mean, so much has changed over the course of time that maybe because of that the world won't end. And maybe it was going to end in such a way that we wouldn't notice it. But now the world might end in such a catastrophic way that we'll all feel the ultimate amount of pain, and the elites will have siphoned all our souls, and they'll be left with Agenda 21 back on this planet.
Maybe.
512,000 people.
Did you say Agenda 21, Fran?
Agenda 21, yeah.
Yeah. What date is it today?
It's the 21st of June, Dave.
It's the 21 June.
It's June 21st, yes.
21.
21st.
21, the date that the Mayans theorized the world would end.
Yes.
Originally 21st of December.
It's getting scary now, Dave.
Today, the 21st of June.
Agenda 21. Everybody, remember.
It's fascinating to think. It's fascinating to think how so much can change. Have you ever seen? You're watching Community now, are you?
Community of Now, no. I have not watched an episode of it yet. No.
Okay, so without spoiling anything, there's an episode in Community where
in Community. I thought you meant Community of Now. It was. I thought you said
no,
Community of Now. Like, oh yeah, no, yeah,
the
go.
show Community.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm no
There's an
spoilers
episode.
here.
No spoilers. But there's an episode where they're trying to make a decision, and one of them rolls the dice.
Oh yes.
And that's where I got the idea for that. So there's every possibility that dice lands on.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At some point, every single one of those, every possibility that comes out of that dice being rolled, creates a brand new time loop. You just made yourself really big, Fran. Your head is.
That's it, though. I mean, look, this is what we might look like in a parallel universe.
Potentially.
But how much? I wonder how far it goes, Dave. Okay. Yeah, right. So we needed a bit of comic relief, anyway. But
we're getting too serious.
yeah, we were getting into serious. But no. Like, I mean, it can definitely mean that when they thought that this timeline was going to occur, certain events would have had to happen.
Yeah.
So, and if, right, the universe is mathematically correct and it is expanding at the rate that it is, and everything is moving at the same pace of what it is, then we can definitely see how, if something was to alter the mathematics of the universe just slightly.
Yeah.
So say our axis of Earth was knocked to a point where instead of the asteroid passing Earth like this, but Earth was then shifted out this way, closer, out this way.
Yeah.
And then the asteroid went buff, just from a few degrees of a change.
Yeah.
The slightest change. And that kind of brings me on to a theory of wormhole, the wormhole theory, where wormholes are kind of like, our black holes are kind of like a bridge from one area, one space in time to another. So it's like a shortcut. And what I think is that if wormholes were to exist, right, and would, over the course of time, would these wormholes, right, not have expanded the same way that the universe or a planet would have gotten bigger due to gravity? So if this wormhole rips open and it causes a time dilation or a bend in space time, and it is big enough that maybe an asteroid or even a comet could pass through these wormholes and shift from one place in space to the other. But if wormholes were possible, then would that not mean that if they were all over the universe, that comets are shifting from one place to another? And if they were around the Earth, if these wormholes were around the Earth and maybe they had expanded to a point that an asteroid could just be shot right directly into us through one of these wormholes, and then it could cause a cataclysmic event.
That's pretty heavy, Fran.
It
does make a lot of sense that these things can happen, because we don't know. As we know, space is infinite.
Yeah, it is. It's literally never ending, and that's what the Tipler cylinder is.
Yeah.
It basically uses a massive long cylinder around it, like a longitudinal axis, and the rotation basically it creates a dragon effect, like a frame dragon effect. So you could imagine like frames, like FPS on a screen. The way the way it when it gets to a certain amount of frames per second, there's a little bit of a drag in time, so there can be a little bit of a glitch. So and it's like it it's worked around like fields of closed like time like curves, traversable. Um, so they basically it's called subliminal time travel to the past is what this Tipler cylinder basically is. So if civilizations, and that's why the Mayans could possibly have been time travelers. If they were able to harness the technology of black holes, because this is what the Tipler cylinder is working on, right? Might be better. They might actually be advised to kind of leave wormholes alone altogether.
Yeah.
So they probably did like a time warp, right? So and this time warp theory was explained by Frank Tipler, right? He was a United States astronomer, and he basically he said, right, he has this like he had like a recipe uh for a time machine. So he was to take a piece. He was saying he was to take a piece of material, right, which was 10 times the mass of the sun, and squeeze it together into and roll it into a long, thin, like super dense cylinder, right? A bit like a black hole. That has passed through like a spaghetti factory. So if you were to imagine a spaghetti grater, you know,
Yeah.
and so this being the black hole, right? And then we have this going
You've
here,
actually
here, here.
frozen. You've frozen on me here, Fran.
Well, if I frozen, I don't mind freezing because at the moment time is standing still. So, I'm traveling in time currently at the moment. So you're seeing me in the past and you're hearing me in the future. And this
It's
is,
great. I don't think it freezes on the recording anyway, so it's grand.
yeah, right. Oh,
But
cool.
I
Well,
can't.
then.
The people that are watching can see what you're doing. I can't. So just
Well,
fire
now
away.
that's fair enough. So, well, now at least we get the whole witness of what happened, and so it's rolled into like the super dense cylinder, and then it's like a black hole's been put through a spaghetti factory, and you have all these possibilities rolling off it. So then you spin this cylinder at a few billion revolutions per minute, right? And you just see what happens. So basically, what the Tipler cylinder predict, or what Tipler predicted himself, was that a ship was kind of like following around a plotted spiral, which was going around the cylinder, and it eventually find itself on these closed time-like curves, and it would emerge thousands or even billions of years from its starting point and and travel galaxies and galaxies away. And there, for that though, for it to work properly, it does, excuse me, run into a little bit of a problem, but because when you get to the end of it, so because the cylinder has to be infinitely long, odd things near the ends of it start to occur, and when you're in, like, if you were to use your time ship as it were, or to get there, you'd actually have to steer well clear of them. So if you were to ever be able to make the device as long as you can and stick to pats close to the middle of the cylinder, you probably might be able to survive the trip. But it's definitely a very dangerous way of getting through space for a human. But
Yeah.
it's also called, as a nickname, it's called the Tipler time machine. So it's a hypothetical object theorized to be a potential mode of time travel, It's an approach that is basically conceivably functional within humanity's current understanding of physics. So it's specifically the theory of general relativity, right? But that was shown later on that a Tipler cylinder could only really allow time travel if its length were to appear infinite. So, because if something's length obviously is not infinite, you're going to come to a complete stop, which would also be catastrophic for, any passengers on board. So because you could imagine traveling along this infinite stretch of line at the, faster than the speed of light, and then you come and you crash into a wall. It it wouldn't necessarily be, it wouldn't be great
No.
for humans at all, and it wouldn't be great.
Crashing into walls isn't good at all for humans.
No,
I've done it a couple of times myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't. I did a go-karting once.
Jeez.
I crashed into the wall while I was go-karting, and they told me that it could possibly have knocked my alignment off somewhat. So I'm sure if you crash into the wall at faster than the speed of light, you'll definitely be.
Oh yeah, I'd assume it would knock your alignment off just a little bit.
Yeah, just slightly. You'd be going real. Yeah, that's a bit. Well, but if you were going fast enough and you got in, you'd probably just go through the wall. I'd imagine you're going so quickly
Could
that you
though?
wouldn't. I mean,
I mean, even if a human is going at that speed, surely a human's body. I suppose it depends on the wall, doesn't it? It depends on how big the wall is.
yeah.
Are we
And what
talking the
you're
Great Wall of China? Are we talking about the wall here beside me, which is fairly like weak and small, or are we talking about like Donald Trump's wall? Yeah, it's
an
depends.
invisible wall of such.
Yeah.
But then is that invisible wall actually just
Is it
a
stronger?
structure? Is it stronger? Just because we can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. And
Very true.
So
The sun in Ireland, it's there. You can't see it, but it's there.
yeah. No, it's that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fucking heavy shit, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna take over here. I think it's.
Are we not going? So we'll flip it. We'll flip it on. We'll move on from time travel. Is it?
Are we moving on from time travel?
Well, I mean, I don't think we.
I'm gonna take you on a trip, Fran. I'm gonna take you on a time traveling trip to 1959.
I'm waiting. So, 1959.
The conspiracy theory, and I've seen this on a couple of podcasts before. I did my own research on it, so this is all through. I didn't get any of this from Wikipedia. Just going to put that out there, so it's all reputable sources. Okay, I found a site that looked at the exact, it was the original theory of this.
That old Harvard referencing. Yeah.
Are pigeons government issued drones that are used to spy on us? Have you ever seen a baby pigeon? Have you ever seen a pigeon being born?
I've never seen a pigeon being born, Dave, and I've never seen a baby pigeon, and it's terrifying because I've really never seen a baby pigeon. I can't imagine one time that I've looked around, and they always seem to be in high-res areas. All these pigeons seem to congregate.
Yeah.
I mean, when they're in the city, normally
the places I've seen pigeons, the Champs-Élysées in Paris.
That's
the centre of Salou in Spain, the centre of Barcelona, the centre of Dublin, the centre of Manchester, the centre of London, the centre of Glasgow. Every city I've ever been to, there's been a congregation of pigeons.
That's yeah.
So I've never seen them. I've genuinely, right? This isn't me ripping the piss. This isn't me trying to have a laugh and trying to get views on the podcast or whatever. I've never seen a pigeon outside the city, outside of town, outside of area where you have less than 20 people. I've never seen a pigeon in a field. I've never seen a pigeon on the beach.
I've never seen a pigeon on the beach. I live near the beach.
There's water there.
Yeah.
You know, could fuck up their technology, the robotics, the electrics in their systems.
And they're always in sheltered areas.
There you go. Always in train stations.
Yeah. They are in sheltered areas.
This theory stretches back. So the theory originally came in the last couple of years, but it's theorized that in 1959, the CIA killed 12 billion pigeons worldwide because they were shitting on their cars.
They were shit pigeons.
They were, genuinely, it's theorized that
they were updating technology.
They wanted, what's his name? John F. Kennedy to sign off on it. And this is also a theory, you know, I'm not going to get into the details of this, but part of the theory is that the CIA murdered. Now, I don't know, I didn't look into it, don't quote me on this, but they killed JFK because they wanted to kill all these pigeons. Now, I don't think that's true. But
well, I you know, some people might disagree with you, Dave.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah. I'm just reading off what I found. 1959 to 1971, the CIA killed 12 billion pigeons because they were shitting on their cars. And they wanted to replace these pigeons with mechanical drones. So, yeah, robotic pigeons were released. Sorry, in January 2020, after this theory really took off, the US government released footage of a robotic pigeon with its wing, where it's the first robotic bird that can actually flap its wings like a normal bird. But is that because they realized people were getting close to the theory of pigeons, you know, are actually drones?
I think they're definitely cracking down on that. I mean, but now there is actual drones, and what's scarier is that they can use the normal drones to distract us from what the pigeons are actually doing.
Exactly. So, have you ever heard the phrase "tastes like chicken"?
Yes.
People say that about pigeon. Tastes like low-grade chicken. But why? Why is that, Fran? And here's where my theory comes into it. When you go to a restaurant and say, I think I'll try the pigeon, it's actually just a chicken that was malnourished. There's not a lot of meat on a pigeon in a restaurant. So, my final point on this, Area 51.
Oh, shit.
Have reportedly been working on a project called Turkey X500, where they plan on building these drone pigeons.
They're not doing it with the turkeys either now, are they?
No, it's called Turkey X500.
Cool. I like turkey burgers.
So do I. Yeah, me too. And turkey mince.
Yeah.
But have they been looking to cover up their tracks, Fran?
We're gonna have to find out, Dave.
We're gonna have to look into this.
I think this is definitely an investigation worth boarding.
But I believe Area 51, Fran, I believe that brings us on to your final topic.
And that is the hiding of Nikola Tesla's documents and what they did to him after his death, where he was found suspiciously in his own hotel room. And how because at the time it was at the time of Nikola Tesla's death, he was 86. He was 86 at the time, and it was during like the whole period of World War Two, and so when Nikola Tesla died, he had files for a particle beam weapon, known which to him, which he named the death ray. It was his final. It was obviously the last project that he had ever invested time in,
Yeah.
and it seemed to be was seeming to be proven invaluable in the ongoing conflict. So they couldn't risk having Tesla's technology get into the wrong hands, right? So what the government did, they swooped in like carrier pigeons, right?
Drone
And they
pigeons.
stuck drone pigeons. They swooped in and they took hold of Tesla's documents, for the technology, and so they took possession of his property and his documents from his room in New York, the hotel room in which he last was. So that was the last place he was, and but what actually happened to Tesla's files from that particular moment of time is it still remains shrouded in the depths of mystery, and it's ripe for what we're talking about right now. So basically, after years of fielding, going through certain questions, there's 250 pages of Tesla related documents, right? And they've been declassified right under the Freedom of Information Act in 2016. So the bureau followed up with two additional releases, which the latest the publication actually came in March 2018, right? But many questions still kind of remained unanswered, and some of Tesla's files are actually still missing. So 3 weeks basically after the Serbian American inventors, that's what he was. He was half Serb, he was half American, right? And there was this an electrical engineer from Massachusetts, right? So MIT, which was given the task of evaluating the papers, right, to determine if they contained kind of significant value or whatnot. But according to the declassified files, right, there was this fella, a doctor called John G. Trump, right, reported that his analysis, right, was showed Tesla's efforts to be primarily kind of like speculative, philosophical, kind of like he was like the PPP character, as they call him, primarily philosophical, promotional. So and he said that not to include new sound workable principles or methods for realizing such results. So they didn't they had nothing apparently of value, according to this doctor Trump, right? And surprisingly, and so which is kind of even funnier now, because it brings us on to the theory of Donald Trump being a time traveler, because funnily enough at that time, right, John G. Trump, right, he's actually the president Donald Trump's, right, the US President Donald Trump's uncle.
Okay.
Right. So he's actually Trump's father's younger brother, right?
Okay.
And but after all this occurred, right? Fred Trump, right, which is Donald Trump's father, right, helped design X-ray machines that greatly, helped cancer patients, because they were able to obviously determine from the chest X-rays that these people had certain types of cancer and where they were. So, like, it's basically it's work on radar research, right?
Yeah.
For the Allies during World War II. And Donald Trump himself, even cites that as his uncle's credentials. Often during he often cited it during the presidential campaigns that he was doing. For one, because he even said about one interviewer, he goes, "My uncle used to tell me about nuclear before nuclear was nuclear." He once said in an interview. So that meaning that his uncle, right, obviously had known this and known it to be a possibility, that it could be made. So what did they find is what did they find in Tesla's documents is what I want to know, because at the time, right, the FBI pointed to the Dr. Trump, so to John G. Trump, right, his report as evidence that Tesla's vaunted death ray, the particle beam weapon, that it didn't exist, right? Which they were saying that they used to say Tesla was kind of like eccentric, and it seemed a ridiculous feat, this whole death ray, right? And that it was just rumors and speculation. But actually, in fact, the U.S. government itself was split in response to Tesla's technology, and reason for them being so split on not knowing Tesla's technology is because they didn't understand it. So people that were disagreeing with it didn't know, and the people that understood it considered that it was a possibility, but they didn't know how to use it. They didn't know how Nikola Tesla got to that, because how are you going to be able to tell the man, right? How are you going to be able to tell a man's work if you are not the man? And you have never didn't listen to the man about his work. They kind of fobbed it off in a sense. But like the ones that are saying that it's not a possibility are the ones that took the documents. It would seem to say, and so like it and it was funny because it was a group of like military personnel at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, right? These were the ones that were so vastly separated on the opinion of Tesla's ideas. And so there was this guy, he was a Brigadier General L.C. Craigie, right? And Craigie had said, he goes, I'm quoting him, he goes, about Craigie, he said, Craigie was the first person to ever fly a jet plane for the military.
Yeah.
So he was like John Glenn of the day. He said there's something to this. The particle beam weapon is real. So he has like two different groups. One group dismissing Tesla's invention, and the other group was saying that there was something really to it, and which then there's like the nagging question of why the files were missing, and when he died in his estate was to go to Tesla's estate was to go to his nephew, right, Sava Kasanovich, right. And he was at the time, he was the Yugoslavian ambassador to the US. So Nikola Tesla really did have time. He really did have a lot of connections, and the way that he would have died. But it kind of suggests to me that if Trump is a time traveler, or his family seems to be, that they would time travel to that point where Tesla was in his room in New York, and on some other timeline, Tesla's death ray has been used, right? But in our timeline, the one that we're currently in now, the files for the death ray are being used, but just not in the way
trying to decipher them, kind of thing, like, to see.
To see what's actually happening. So and these were all sent to Belgrade in Serbia, right? Where they reside now in the Nikola Tesla Museum. So that's a place where we should go. Is Serbia.
Definitely,
Just
yeah, I'd
to
love to go to Serbia.
yeah
Belgrade is meant to be an absolutely beautiful city, actually, as well.
yeah. I was look I do look it up. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
what
Yeah.
so like the FBI originally recorded like some 80 like 80 trunks are among like Tesla's effects, right? So 80 trunks had arrived in Belgrade, and only 60 of them, right,
Yeah.
arrived at the museum. So there's 20 trunks missing from these like from Nikola Tesla's effect of what he owned as all his documents. There's 20 boxes of files missing, you could say. And so for that, like for 5 part, despite like John G. Trump even, right? So for if you're tearing it apart, John G. Trump's like dismissive, his dismissive assessment of Tesla's ideas immediately after his death, the military tried to incorporate particle beam weaponry into their work after World War II. So they were actually trying to use his technology, but I don't think they understood it. So if Tesla was around, that technology would already be here, and it'd be vastly more advanced now,
Yeah.
because
Oh, there's more
we'd
access, isn't
obviously
there? Yeah.
there would have been more access. Yeah, so and it was during like it was fueled by Ronald Reagan's strategic defense initiative, right, or the Star Wars, right, and it's like you know, if the government is still using Tesla's ideas to power its technology, that could explain why some files related to the event are still remain
Missing.
classified.
Yeah.
Missing, yeah, but they're saying that they they're saying that they're classified, right? So the files aren't missing. The
Oh, right.
files
So
are
they have
just
them. Yeah.
they have some of them. Some of the files are mysteriously missing. There's only a few files that are missing, but there's a lot of them that still remain classified, because obviously it's data protection, and they're trying to protect this man's documents, and probably if his nephew was left as a estate, then he was given the go ahead to kind of keep this in under wraps in the first place himself. So like, I mean, there's even evidence that Frank Roosevelt, like the vice president at the
Yeah.
time, and was discussed the effects of Tesla, particularly the ones that were dealing with like wireless transmission of electrical energy and the whole death ray with voices. And according to like the documents for the FBI, along with the same lines, Cypher, which was this guy that was working with the documents, and his colleagues played they played a very big role at Banner Beach, right? Which was like these people were appointed the head of the Manhattan Project, and I didn't
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
look up
Yeah.
what the Manhattan Project was, right?
I've heard of it, but I
We,
don't know what it is
we,
actually. Yeah.
it was basically an evaluation of Tesla's papers,
Oh, okay.
and they looked at the possibility that there was an FDR, right, of himself, saw a meeting with the inventor just before he died. So if you go back, and if they were visiting like key places in Tesla's lives along the way, there's actually there's a pretty strange like group of people following Tesla's movements in the the weeks and the months you know before before he actually died. So that's why there's a lot of skepticism as to say that even though it seemed like his death was legitimate, could there be a possibility that it was not? and you know,
Yeah.
he was taken out for his files, and you know, it all just kind of boils down to, again, if this didn't happen, what would our timeline be like now?
Yeah. I mean, I've just seen, Fran, that we've ticked over the hour mark here.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
We've gone way too far. We've gone a long time. Well, I mean, I suppose it could be well, if we're going to be thinking about particle beam death rays, you could think about particle acceleration, and how you can actually separate particles from each other.
That would be fascinating. Yeah.
That could be something. So that kind of like ties into, you know, quantum physics, where we can all split. Like, I'm already here twice, but another me is here on a different frequency level.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
like,
Yeah.
I have like this higher, like this vibrational body outwards. So you can kind of imagine. Have you ever seen you know, like the vapor trails?
No.
You can imagine like yourself as like a vapor trail.
Yeah.
So you'll see, you know, and you'll see like several, you know, several of this coming behind me, and but that would be a different topic. But
Could be for another day. But I
it'll
think
be for another day.
we leave it there then. An hour and 2 minutes.
I think we should leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think
we
we
can
can leave
talk
it there.
about the campaign to unify the nation trophy another day, I think.
Yeah. We missed out on Katie Hopkins. We
Look,
didn't really get her in. I mean, like,
we
she could be a time traveling robotic pigeon, but so
well,
we don't
she
know.
could be her own topic on her own day. I'd say we could. The two of us have a lot to say about her views and the likes and things that have gone on. So,
Well, she could have ruined everybody. You know, I mean, as she's given out about you know, campaigns. She's you know,
yeah,
she's giving
well,
out about campaigns.
we'll discuss that another day anyway.
God
I
damn.
think,
Okay.
yeah, Jesus, that did not feel like an hour and 2 minutes, honestly.
No, it felt like 15 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, time is relative, I
Exactly.
suppose.
Exactly.
You know, so.
But anyway, thanks everyone that have watched this far. I'm sure everyone's clicked off at some point in this video.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's gotten to a point. We got to the juicy bits at the end, and that's the scary thing, because we're afraid.
Yeah, but look, if people are that dedicated to the channel, they'll watch the whole thing.
Exactly.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you
share
have
to your friends.
Or bad, send it down in the comments below. And
no matter how good or bad.
Yeah.
Because we'll just tell you how it is anyway.
Exactly. And that's how it is. We'll leave it there. So.
Yeah, that's how it is. Say goodbye to us. We're really good. We're telling you how it is. We're actually going. We're gonna have to get that down. I think. You know, we're episode 2 now, and you know, our introductions and our outros are definitely the things taking the hit. But it's the journey. We're learning. It's the journey that we're taking.
Yeah. So
I like the in betweens.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful process. It's all a process, Fran.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much to everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
You're all beautiful.
That's how it is.